Okay, I'm so tired from the last video, so let's make this a quick one. You know, wink wink, nudge nudge. Go watch the video. Legal Lemonade, everyone, an extremely diverse roster of champions that each have their own uniqueness to them. Through their character design, not you. Abilities, still not you. And overall extremely compelling lore. Seriously, why are you still here? League gives me the option to pick something that I want to represent. This is why in multiple videos now I show off Draven. He's easily my favorite character in the game, as I enjoy his out there personality, as I am severely lacking in social skills as I sit behind a computer all day making videos. Yeah, imagine me going up to a bar and saying, "Hey ladies, have you ever heard about this cool undead juggernaut named Scion?" You see, his main abilities involve him turning undead. Yeah, that's just not happening. Anyways, Draven is extremely fun with extremely high auto attack damage numbers, but I always seem to have a problem with a large amount of champs, and that's that I get burnt out very easily by their playstyles. Is Draven fun? Yes. Is he good? Definitely. Would I play 10 games in a row as him? No. Most champions are designed with one kind of playstyle in mind. This is most apparent with the stat scalings on abilities. It is pretty obvious when a character is better off doing different builds based on what their abilities scale off of. Draven has amazingly high AD ratios on his abilities, but none of them scale off AP, making AP Draven a troll build as he gains nothing out of the AP items. Draven also does not scale with any tank stats, so that's off the board as well. Draven has to play AD, but I'm not done yet. Draven's whole thing are his spinning axes, which will hit extremely hard, but you need to go pick up said axes in order to keep up the insane damage. You can only have 2 axes at a time, so building attack speed is not very viable either. This gives Draven 2 options, heavy crit or heavy lethality, and because most lethality items punish the user for being ranged, crit is usually the better option to go. But not every champion is Draven. Some are able to push past those boundaries set by Riot Games and can turn any item into a viable tool to a build. The champion I am talking about is Udyr. All 4 of his stances scale off different stats: attack damage on his claw stance, health on his mantle stance, and AP on his storm stance. And they are not just tied down to each of these stances, as 3 of the 4 abilities can scale off AP. This gives Udyr a healthy variety of possibilities in his kit, but then we go full circle and realize an issue. If you threw a baseball at my face, that would hurt. If you threw a brick at my face, then it would hurt as well. So if you ask me which one hurt more, I'd simply answer that it didn't matter because you're just throwing a random blunt object at my face. Udyr has a similar issue. Regardless of his abilities, he will always play the same. He will rush in with his Stampede stance, stun you, and then hit you a dozen times with the stance of his choosing. It's hard to find a champion that can be this unique with build variety already, but finding a champ that has an entirely different playstyle depending on said build can feel impossible. But you all read the title of this video, so let's finally bring out the star of the show, Shaco. Shaco, in my opinion, has the best build variety in the entire game, and is why I am naming this theorem after him, as he single-handedly shows how a champion's entire playstyle can change just by the difference of items alone. Starting off simple, Shaco is seen as an assassin. This means high attack damage numbers and lethality, with low defense capabilities that usually make up with an escape tool being his deceive ability. This makes him a massive invisible threat to enemies, especially to low defense champions such as ADCs and enchanter supports. So he's a fantastic assassin. Great, but where do we go with this? Well, let's skip ahead to his ultimate, which creates a clone of himself that copies all of his current stats. This includes attack damage and attack speed, as well as constant on-hit effects. This now gives items such as Blade of the Ruined King or Wit's End viability, where he would rush in with his clone and absolutely shred a tanky opponent, now turning himself into a threat to tanks rather than squishy champions. Once again, we can go even further by flipping the entire script with ability power. His ability Jack in the Box has extremely heavy AP scaling with not only damage overall, but the overall lifetime of the box itself, starting at 40 seconds but increasing by 10% of Shaco's AP. Now you can invest in heavy cooldowns and ability power, essentially controlling the area around him with proper setup and positioning, with a more passive playstyle rather than rushing in like the 2 builds mentioned before. But we can go even more than that by using the Jack in the Box as a disengage tool for your carry, as you can then place those traps in the backline to prevent dive champions trying to engage fights. You can then go even further than that by grabbing debuffing items such as Iceborne Gauntlet, Frozen Heart, Randuin's Omen. You get the idea. Sure, don't get me wrong, there are definitely better options than others, and you are definitely going to get a few weird faces if you do something like Radiant Virtue plus Redemption support combo. What I am trying to show is that there is no definitive best build for him currently, because Shaco is not meta, with the whole idea of him basically being pinned down as a 50-50 champ. Either you kill him or his clone. This determines a large amount of his fight potential. Shaco has extremely high skill ceiling, which also means he has the highest amount of skill expression, causing him to have a wide variety in build options. You can see similar things in champions such as Kog'Maw, which has an extremely viable AP build where he can turn into an on-hit hyper carry into an artillery mage. Shyvana with a burst mage or on-hit bruiser builds, Thresh with a warden or hyper carry using energized items. You can see a variety of these builds, but there is usually one more obvious answer than the other between the options. Shaco does what a clown does best, put on a performance with the audience and always be 10 steps ahead of their expectations. Or, just screaming slurs like it's a COD lobby, I don't know.